So in our previous lecture, we talked about few examples related to control systems and tried to understand that how control system works and what is the importance of control system in different fields of engineering. So, and in this lecture, we shall discuss few more examples. So one of which is the electric geyser, which are normally available commercially in our homes. So here is an schematic that shows the schematic of the geysers. So this geyser has a cold water inlet and a hot water outlet, and insulation is provided. Then we have inside this geyser a heating element along with the thermostat. So how thermostat works was discussed in our previous lecture, and what happens inside the chamber is as cold water enters, and depending upon what that thermostat setting is at, so we'll be having temperature of the water, of the hot water accordingly. So heating elements, when it operates, so it heats the water inside the chamber of this geyser to an extent which is sensed by the thermostat, and the thermostat, once the desired temperature is attained, for example, let's say 37 degrees Celsius is the desired temperature, or 40 degrees Celsius is the desired temperature, and as soon as the geyser attains the desired temperature, the thermostat gives a signal to turn off the process of heating. So this is in fact a feedback closed loop system. A feedback mechanism keeps on operating in order to control the temperature of the water. So here's an example of the first application of feedback control system. So this was developed in the period of 300 BC to 1 BC in Greece, and it's called the float regulator mechanism. And this is a application which is also found nowadays in many places. So you might have seen such application in your overhead tanks and in the flushes. So what happens is float is provided which keeps on maintaining its position at the top level of the water, and when the supply of water is allowed, the level rises, the float rises along, and it closes the inlet valve of the supply. So what happens is the closing will not be complete when before a desired level is attained. So what is going on here is when the level increases. So initially the float will be at a position when there will be no restriction to the supply, but once the level of the fluid inside the tank increases, the float restricts the flow from the supply. So the amount of fluid that was initially flowing is restricted now, and now when the float is somewhere in the midway of closing and opening, then the flow from the supply will be restricted. So a reduced amount of fluid will be observed flowing inside the chamber. And if we are going to change the flow at the output side, so if suppose that we increase the flow at the output side, then in that case the level is going to drop, and again the water from the supply or the fluid from the supply will increase. And likewise, if we are going to reduce the, or we are going to semi-close the wall at the output of this chamber, then in that case the float will rise and will restrict more the flow of fluid from the supply, and this way the mechanism is controlled to a certain level. So if suppose that this valve is closed, so by closing the outlet valve, the level will keep on increasing until the float completely restricts or stops the flow from the supply. Now this is the first feedback system developed in modern Europe around 1620, and is called the Coriolanus Drebbel incubator. So what this incubator is used for example, in this particular figure we have shown eggs. So this incubator was used for hatching eggs, and the similar mechanism was used for keeping newborn babies in the nurseries. So these was incubators used for small babies or premature babies in the nurseries of hospital. So how this work is, if you look into the figure, so it comprises of different chamber, one of which is the container which contains the eggs which are required to be hatched, and around this container is a second container which contains water, and in this container of water we have tube consisting of alcohol, then this part consisting of mercury attached to a float and riser to a damper. Then the outer chamber comprises of the source of fire from which the flue gases are allowed to pass through the inner chamber, which causes heating of water. So now what happen is, when a required set point or a required temperature is desired, so the fire allows the flue gases to flow around this chamber, causing the water to heat up, and once the water heats, it causes alcohol to have the temperature rise, which eventually will cause expansion of alcohol, and then again this expansion in alcohol will cause the fluid, the mercury, to allow the float to rise, and then this rise in the float will cause the damper to drop. So when the damper goes down, it restricts the flow of flue gases. So as is clear from the figure, if you are going to restrict the flow of flue gases, which means that the temperature of water will drop. So the temperature of water is decided by the flow of the flue gases. So if the flow in the flue gases is large, in that case the temperature of water will rise. If the flow of flue gases is reduced, the temperature of water will drop. So similarly, if suppose that the temperature of water drops below the set point, then in that case the expansion of alcohol will be stopped, or there will be compression in alcohol, which will cause the float, because of mercury, to drop and the damper to rise. And once the damper rises, it will allow flue gases to flow with more. The flue gases will flow profusely, and in that way we are going to increase the temperature of the water. And this is said to be the first automatic feedback controller used in the industrial process, agreed to be James Watt's flyball governor, and was developed in 1769 for controlling speed of a steam engine. So if you look into the figure, then the steam engine, the moving part of that steam engine was connected to a pulley through a belt, as shown in the figure in the bottom side, and the rotation of the engine will cause rotation of this pulley, and in turn will cause the rotation of this shaft, and on this shaft is connected the fly balls. So once the speed, so these fly balls are further connected to a sleeve system. So we have a sleeve here, and then to this we have the shaft connected to the valve. So this is the butterfly valve, and the requirement here is that when the speed is to be reduced, in order to reduce the speed of the engine, we will restrict the flow of steam, and in order to increase the speed of the engine, the steam will be allowed to flow more. So the engine inlet should be increased in order to increase the speed, and in order to reduce the speed, the engine inlet should be, the steam from to the engine inlet should reduce. So now what happens is, when suppose that the speed of the engine increases beyond the set point value, so there must be a desired value, and once the speed increases beyond that set point, the rotation of the shaft increases, which causes these balls to move outward. So when these balls move outward, by outward I mean in this direction. So when these balls move outward, they causes the sleeve to go down. So the outward movement of the ball will allow sleeves to go down, and it will result in the butterfly valve to move in such a manner that it restricts the steam. So the steam flow will be restricted by the butterfly valve when the balls move outward. And similarly, if suppose that there is load that is put on the steam engine, so the speed of the steam engine changes depending upon what load is being put on it. So when the load on the steam engine increases, in that case the speed of the engine will drop, which will cause the balls to move inward. So in that case we are going to have the movement inward in this direction. So this inward movement of the balls will cause the sleeves to go upward. So when the sleeve move upward, it will cause the butterfly wall to move in such a manner that it will allow the steam to enter the wall to enter the engine more profusely. And nowadays we find the modern applications of control systems, for example controlling the azimuth angle of the antenna. So shown over here is the antenna which is being controlled through gear systems connected to a motor. So motor becomes the actuator which moves the antenna, and the feedback or the sensing part is the potentiometer, which senses the angle or the orientation of the antenna and sends the signal to the differential amplifier, and this amplifier amplifies the signal. And what happens is the angle which is the azimuth angle, actual angle of the antenna, is given by theta naught, and the angle which is desired is theta I. So desired angle theta I is controlled by this potentiometer. So once this theta I is rotated, this shaft is rotated by angle of theta I, it gives a signal to the differential amplifier. The amplifier compares the signal theta I with theta naught, which is received from this potentiometer. So theta I and theta naught, if there exists any difference, it gives signal to the motor to rotate the antenna in such a manner that the difference is reduced to 0. So this is how modern application of control systems or modern control systems work. So we shall be throughout discussing more applications while we study this subject, and we'll observe that how control systems or feedback control systems operate and how they are capable of maintaining the orientation or are capable of maintaining the variables which are being controlled. Some more modern application include aircraft control, for example control of flight, roll, pitch, yaw, speed, etc. Missile guidance and control, navigation guidance and control of inertial technology, antenna azimuth control, which was just discussed, gun directors, robotic controls, manipulator drive, self-guided vehicle, unmanned aerial vehicle or UAV, computer numerical control, CNC, automated manufacturing, vibration control, process dynamic and control, chemical process control, power electronics and electric drives, and the list is endless. So we have different control systems or different applications of control systems being developed day to day.